When you try and build a world, where do you start? Hello, my name is Vaibhav. I'm a dungeon master, have been for 5 years, do it even professionally, and I'm a professional writer. And my Protean 2 video is in progress, like it's almost done, but in the meantime, I wanted to do this with low editing and maybe put it out first. Because I had this lovely idea of where do you start when you try to build your own world for storytelling. And once I got into Dungeons and Dragons, you fall into that like mindset of, oh, like, okay, let's make a map, right? And so I did make a map. I think I made this. And I used a tool called Incarnate and just put down big land masses essentially, and then just saw interesting features, named them, put some mountains down, put some trees down, put some desert and grass down. And I came to a thesis as I was doing this, and then over the years as I've done more, is that world building can start as just names, the just name approach to world building, but it will not be a world. It'll be a map essentially. But that can be good, because then that gives you a springboard to do stuff in and make it more complex and beautiful and like more vivid in the ways that you want it to be. So over time, I made this a version of the same map where we have this like central area that's missing. And I thought, okay, like there are certain ideas that I started with about like panspermia, which is the idea that a meteor comes and crashes on a dead planet or on a nascent planet, and it has life in it, whether like single cell or real life or however. And so the idea of like life comes from outside the planet. I wanted a meteor strike to be a big thing in this world, and I ended up having two of them. One which kickstarted like the life process on the planet, and one which destroyed a continent, and these like little chain of islands is all that remains. And I have another bit of like land and on this like large sea off like the other side of the world. But like these are just concepts and ideas that I came up with, and I noted them down. And then I told a story in this continent. It's called Erus. And then I told more stories in this archipelago continent, which I call Unniwei. And I'll tell you now how like I've built stories in this over time. So on the Erus side, I picked a location, right? I picked this place, Talonmore, as a starting thing. And I built a small game in it, a Dungeons and Dragons game, and I ran it. And then next to Talonmore there's a forest, so that's the second episode where you fight a creature. And then okay, now you guys have come together as a party. Third session, we are gonna go to the big town. And what's the big town nearby? Ridgethorn. So I make up Ridgethorn. And then in Ridgethorn they're meeting other people as more people are joining the game. And from there, like some stuff happens because of which they have to go to the nearby big locale, which is the Skyspire Mountain. And so they have a big incident there, a big fight there. And I'm developing this over time as like based on what the characters have said they want to do or what ideas we have with them. I put their story in the Skyspire Mountains. They end up fighting a dragon here and losing some stuff. And then they have to come back to Ridgethorn. There's an attack on it from this area, the Deadwoods, like a bunch of zombies start coming out and attack Ridgethorn, like a big army of them. They fight it and they end up having to go to this city, Fallgrave, which is in the middle of this cursed forest. And this whole thing lasted like, I'm not sure, like I think it was 25, 30 sessions across 10 months, I think. And we told a story of characters that went from level 1 to level 7. That was the end of an arc for them. I had the next arc planned for the players, like okay, now we would go to the other side of the continent essentially. So they would have gone to this southern area, and one of the players was from here. He was a soldier in the king's army here of the kingdom so this is one big kingdom to the south, right? So that would have been their second arc. Unfortunately, that campaign ended there. But we got to like a major milestone story, right? We told a great arc there. Secondly, the next campaign that I ran was even better, and I'm about to get back into that campaign which I want to tell you about because I'm very excited. So this Unniwei archipelago map that I built again. So then I like took that archipelago from the big map, plotted it down, sat down one day, and I'm like, yep, just put some mountains, put some forests, put some grassland, put a desert here or there, put a wasteland here or there, put like, and okay, cool, the northern islands are more temperate, the southern islands are more frigid. And like, let's just figure out some, like, just put some stuff down, right? And over this whole process of just putting down stuff and then naming them, I took inspiration from different things in my life. So I've ran a campaign on this island, Teresa. What I've come to realize is you can make a map like this, but you're not gonna use all of it because stories are not global in nature. Stories are local in nature. We tell stories about characters who are going through things, right? And that is what I realized, because again I started that same process for a new group here in a small village with a forest. They go to the big city next. From there they have to go to the big location, and after that there's a big kingdom for the next thing. I realized, oh wow, okay, like there is a certain like thing in my head about how fantasy stories are told or heroic adventures are told, and I'm like, oh, I'm seeing a template. I don't want to be templatized, but I learned that, oh, okay, no, the template that you're following is the 3-act structure really of like that, and we'll get to that in a separate video sometime maybe. But to make this island, what I did was I took these, like you'll see so many locations. What are they? At the time of building, I don't know. I'm just putting down interesting locations. And then I've told this 2.5 year, 55 session campaign in this region, right? And I know what Bristlebridge is, what Farbaran is, what Ishash is, what the Sea of Bridges is, what Rishshore is, what these 3 islands are. That because these are all the locations we went to in that story. I don't know what the Jahin Marshlands is, but I ran a separate, like a game, like a different, not a Dungeons and Dragons, but a different thing. I tried and it was okay. Like I got some idea there, right? Meanwhile, I have told a 4-session game here in the floating plains. I have told a 1-shot in the Sinnoh Desert. I created this Nendur ruins for that. I wrote a short story in this area, Sindhuj, and this big tree. I have told a 4-session game in here in this region, which I call the Nam Valley. I have a short story here in the Emerald Hide and Divyasta, and then I have a couple of 1-shots in a bunch of different locations. So the way you build a world is you slap down a landmass, put some interesting terrain on it, and then just name stuff. And then from there afterwards you keep coming back to it whenever you feel the itch to tell a story. Pick a location on the place that you've made and say, okay, let's put the story there. How does this setting affect the story? And how do you come up with names? Well, Ishash is Ashish backwards. Ashish is one of my mentees in Toastmasters in the time that I was there. So is Divyasta, which is for Divya. So is Sindhuj for Sindhuja. So is Prerinam for Prerna. So is Vindhyan Goj for Vindhya. So is Koshir Hangul, which is for a student that I had in Christ University. Names can be anything, and then the other stuff is just like, oh, what sounds vaguely European, Western, high fantasy, Ashti Peaks and Ashen Wastelands, right? So Ash is the big theme here. This is like Tulsi, and Rosona is a city in Critical Role, which is a story I watched. So I wanted to like build that. So Tulsi and Rosona, Tulsona or Talsona, however you want to pronounce it. And then you revisit that. I've written like a small lore thing, which I might make a YouTube short for Talsona, right? And the Sindhu story I've submitted to a magazine, which I'm waiting to hear back from. But if it doesn't work out, it can go on my blog. Come back, name a thing, anything. Just slap down titles, and then whenever you feel like telling a story, pick a location and see how it goes. I'm going to stop this video here, but that's how I world build. But if this sort of thing is interesting to you, leave a comment with what kind of storytelling are you interested in, and whether a role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons or sitting down and writing fiction is interesting for you. I do both, and I would love to make videos about both. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.